Welcome to Community Church Unitarian Universalist. I'm sorry, Sally, am I on? Is my mic on?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Doesn't sound right up here. Welcome to Community Church Unitarian Universalist live and virtual service, where we gather each week within and beyond our walls to be together to fulfill the purpose of our community church by forming a community to practice and advance a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. You are welcome here this morning. We have a couple of announcements. Reverend Stacey first has one she'd like to make.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to let you know I'm still hoping to do this religious education program called Wellspring. It's going to be happening Wednesday evening. The Wellspring Adult Education Program will be happening Wednesday evening, every other Wednesday, starting in November. I know a couple of you have expressed interest in it, and that's great. I need a minimum of 8. We're going to do it online with Baton Rouge, and they have about 3 or 4. And please contact me after the service today if you're interested. The sermon today is on our 6 sources, and that's what the Wellspring program is about. And also just wanted to let you know I read all your aspirations from last week's service. And if you weren't here last week and want to add, I have some pieces of paper, just add them if you would like. And I'm going to be doing something with those aspirations as the year progresses.
I also, as a member of the membership committee, want to read you this. Visitors, guests, newcomers, friends, and anyone else interested in learning more about our church and having their questions answered or in possible church membership are invited to attend a newcomers informational meeting today, immediately following the service at 12:15 in the church sanctuary. Beverages and sandwiches will be provided, along with interesting conversation. A big promise. I wanted to mention also the choir. We've had our first meeting. That was Wednesday night as well, and at 6:30. And if you are interested, it was great. We had a really good time with Nicholas and discovered how to make high notes that I never knew I could make, and it was just great. So please consider doing that. We have a group of 6 right now. So if we could have some more, that'd be wonderful. Community Church Unitarian Universalist is a progressive and open-minded and inclusive religious community. We welcome those who are on a spiritual search for truth and meaning. Ours is a faith in action as we do the work of justice and elevate our compassion in our quest to live ethically, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of all people. We believe you do not have to think alike to love alike. It is Community Church's custom to light a chalice invoking hope and eternal truth to worship. Please join in singing the words in your order of service as the chalice is lit.
Oh
Cynthia Ramirez brings us Words for All Ages.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to share with you this morning a story called The Empty Cup Mind. A wise old monk once lived in an ancient temple in Japan. One day, the monk heard an impatient pounding on the temple door. He opened it and greeted a young student who said, "I have studied with the great and wise masters. I consider myself quite accomplished in Zen philosophy. However, just in case there is anything more I need to know, I have come to see if you can add to my knowledge." "Very well," said the wise old master. "Come and have tea with me, and we will discuss your studies." The two seated themselves opposite each other, and the old monk prepared the tea. When it was ready, the old monk began to pour the tea carefully into the visitor's cup. When the cup was full, the old man continued pouring until the tea spilled over the side of the cup and into the young man's lap. The startled visitor jumped back and indignantly shouted, "Some wise master you are. You are a fool who does not even know when a cup is full." The old man calmly replied, "Just like this cup, your mind is so full of ideas that there is no room for any more. Come to me with an empty cup mind, and then you will learn something." The end. So, do we have any, I don't think we have children today. Okay, so we'll continue on. Thank you.
So maybe we can sing 102, We the Earth Many Names, instead of singing
102. The reading today is 639. You know what? We haven't done a responsive reading in a long time. Why don't you open your hymnals to 639, and I'll read the bold and you read the italics. Love one another. 639. Let us love one another because love is from God.
Whoever does not love God does not know God, for God is love.
No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God lives in us.
God is love, and those who abide in love abide in God, and God abides in them.
There is no fear in love, for perfect love casts out fear.
Those who say, I love God, and take their brothers and sisters are liars. For those who do not love a brother or sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen.
No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God lives in us. That's John 1, 1 John, verse 4. You did a great job. We'll have to do that more often.
Our next hymn is 193, Our Faith on a Single Death, hymn 193.
Community Church recognizes that we arrive Sunday mornings with various matters on our mind and inform of personal joys and sorrows. If you wish, you may share with the congregation and the digital world, I remind you, by filling out a card to read at the pulpit. If you haven't filled out a card, you may come up to the mic in a minute. If you're online, please write your joy or concern in the chat box, and we'll attempt to get that and read it during the service. A candle will be lit with each sentiment. up any of your joys and concerns if you like, or you may come up to the pulpit at this time.
My joy is that we had 17 people participating for dinners at 6 last night in 2 different groups. And we all had very interesting conversation and a wonderful time. So I encourage all of you, if you haven't tried to come to one of our potluck get-togethers, they're really fun. Look for notices about the next one.
My sorrow is that the 6 CCUU members are thinner today because I forgot to go to the dinners for 6 and take my dish. Mea culpa, I'm so sorry. Emma writes, I share with sorrow the news of the passing of Sister Mary Smith, who was a member of the Sisters of St. Joseph. She taught for many years at a Montessori preschool in Gentilly and was well loved by her students. Well, this certainly says that. She also says, I'm pleased to share that I will be starting a new job on Monday. Yay for that.
My joy is that my daughter finally got her last shot, so she's fully vaccinated. Yay. So little people are finally getting to do that. And my sorrow is that my dad's my stepsister was diagnosed with cancer this week. So she has a long road of stage 3. So she has a long road of recovery ahead of her, and definitely needs some positive thoughts. So.
And I'll add a sorrow for the hurricane victims in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic that are facing severe flood and sorrow and sadness right now. In Pakistan?
A third of Pakistan underwater.
Oh, okay, yes, and also a third of Pakistan that's underwater right now.
Are there any others? Then Reverend Stacey. She just gave me the signal. now we understand. Reverend Stacey will light one candle for those joys that have remained within your hearts, and another for those sorrows that are not ready to be shared.
Our second reading this morning is also in our hymnal at the back of our Singing of the Living Tradition. There's readings there in the back. And this is number 511 in our book here. And it is from the fourth Veda and the Veda scriptures. Let there be peace in the sky and in the atmosphere, peace in the plant world and in the forests. Let the cosmic powers be peaceful. Let Brahma be peaceful. Let there be undiluted and fulfilling peace everywhere. So my sermon this morning is on Unitarian Universalists' 6 sources. And I'm going to share for those of you who might want to know more about it, what they are and why it matters to our theology. As this congregation gets to know me a little more about my engagement in the Unitarian Universalist world, I have also been engaged in Buddhism. I was raised by a New Age family where my parents had gurus. I have been a student of Christian liberation theology in my seminary and following the teachings of current ministers such as the Reverend Barber from the Poor People's Campaign. I have served as an interfaith chaplain, and I come from a multi-faith background. This is why I love Unitarian Universalism so much, because it can hold it all. But it took a few centuries to get here. Our theology is known as a living theology, and it has evolved over the centuries. Our faith has very strong Christian roots. Universalism was the result of a faith that was the branching out of Methodist and congregational Christian theology. In Unitarian Christianity, Francis David in Transylvania from the 16th century believed that God was one and indivisible, which was considered heresy at the time. When the merger of Unitarian and Universalism occurred in the 1960s, there was no dogma or theological view that stated that Christian or Catholics could not marry a Jew and vice versa. In the liberating 60s, when people began to question things at many levels of society, one of those was, why can't I marry someone of my choosing regardless of faith? Hence, families of mixed faith could find a home in Unitarian Universalism. This would be a foundational moment in our faith's history to see all faiths as equal in a personal search for the divine, living with the spirit of equality and living ethically. What holds true over the years is the belief of the inherent worth and dignity of every person in our first principle, and a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, our fourth principle. With the Unitarian Universalist faith agreeing to a set of principles that holds true in our faith at all times. When asked to describe Unitarian Universalist theology, many refer to our principles, which state that we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We believe in justice, equality, and compassion in human relations. We embrace the acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. We believe in a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We engage in the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process. We believe in the goal of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. We act with respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are part. And we journey towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community. As our faith moved from explicit Christian foundations to embracing a more multi-faith model, our 6 sources were established in 1984. The first 5 were, and with the 6th being added in 1995. And those 6 sources are: 1, the direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. Words and deeds, a prophetic people which challenge us to confront powers of structures of evil with justice and compassion, and transforming with the power of love is the second. The third, wisdom from the world's religions, which inspire us in our ethical and spiritual life. Fourth, Jewish and Christian teachings, which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. Humanist teachings which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science and warn us against the idolatries of the mind and spirit. Spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. Unitarianism and Universalism has very specific Christian roots, which I mentioned. Unitarianism claiming that humans alongside Jesus Christ had direct access to God, and Universalists not believing in a damning God, but a loving Jesus, manifesting God's love in the world. Whether we are talking about the roots of Unitarianism in the 1500s or the beginning of Universalism in this country in the 1600s, Unitarians and Universalists believe in the freedom to seek out a faith of direct experience informing our spiritual lives, whether Jesus is exemplar as prophet of Jesus Christ, a man of divine deeds and words. Unitarianism was officially formed in the United States in 1825 when the American Unitarian Association officially broke from the predominant New England Congregationalists, and Universalism beginning officially in the United States before this in the late 1600s. The Transcendentalist movement, which was controversial for even many Unitarians in the late 1800s and early 1900s, included leaders such as the Reverend Ralph Waldo Emerson and others who dared to state that salvation could be found in ethical living. Because of our unique place in the religious world of congregations and churches, because we have a unique place in the religious world, we have been affirming of LGBTQ members for many decades. Our own former UUA president, Bill Sinkford, in 2000, officiated the nation's first legalized LGBT wedding when Massachusetts became the first state in the country to legalize equal rights of marriage for the LGBTQ community. We were a denomination that in the 1960s, when people of different faiths and multi-faith families would be welcomed in our denomination. We were one of the first primarily white denominations that began with regularity hanging Black Lives Matter banners. And many of our congregations proudly have signs that state no human is illegal. As a people of faith working to build beloved community, we have much to offer. But our current iteration of faith has not remained static over the centuries. It has been dynamic in what the diversity of the world has to offer us as well. Our reading of this Sunday service, spoken earlier, are found in the back of our hymnal of the Singing of the Living Tradition. These readings highlight our faith's 6 sources, whether the Bible, Vedic scripture, the Tao, the Buddhist Pali Canon, the Quran, or other sacred texts and prophetic voices. The official UUA, Unitarian Universalist Association website, states of our 6 sources. In Unitarian Universalism, you can bring your whole self, your full identity, your questioning, your expansive heart. Together, we create a force more powerful than one person or one belief system. As Unitarian Universalists, we don't have to check our personal background and beliefs at the door. We join together on a journey that honors everywhere that we have been before. Our beliefs are diverse and inclusive. We have no shared creed. We think for ourselves and reflect together about important questions such as the existence of a higher power, life and death, sacred texts, prayer and spiritual practices, unquote. So I want to emphasize something at this point that is said in that quote I just shared. Not that the Unitarian Universalist Association doesn't say that we have no creed, but no shared creed. We might not have a shared dogma other than our own principles, but people bring their beliefs, maybe their dogmas, as dogma literally means, in the etymology of the word, opinion, sometimes in the context of authority, but sometimes not. We all have our opinions, sometimes thinking our way is a better way than others. But this is not the Unitarian Universalist stance. The Unitarian Universalist stance is that your opinion, your dogma, your expression of faith, whatever it may be, is welcome here. Jesus Christ, Jesus is prophet, Mohammed is prophet, the practice of Passover, learning of the beauty of all that we can learn from earth, everything is welcome through these doors. And we encourage all to share their own unique views in spirituality and faith as they wish. Because I was raised in a with New Thought religious practices, a practicing meditator, a student of Buddhism, a student of Christian liberation theology, and therefore gravitate to certain Unitarian Universalist theologians, you're going to hear certain views, certain faith perspectives, certain opinions of mine, but it doesn't mean that I expect you to believe what I believe. I only expect that we give space for all the diversity of views, opinions, and experiences of faith that we have. In the words of Muhammad Iqbal, considered Pakistan's national poet, who lived in the late 19th century and early 20th century, and is one of our readings in the hymnal that we have, it's called The Journey of Love. He says, "Where in our hearts is that burning of desire? It is true that we are made of dust, and the world is also made of dust. But the dust has motes rising. Whence comes that drive in us? We look to the starry sky, and love storms in our hearts. Whence comes that storm? The journey of love is a very long journey, but sometimes with a sigh you can cross that vast desert. Search and search again without losing hope. My heart and my eyes are devoted to the vision." May we all have a vision of love, a journey of love, inspired by prophetic voices and deeds of those before us, a creed of believing that planting seeds of love is a sacred act. Our faith celebrates diversity of life and the diversity of searching for a higher meaning in this life, in search of what is sacred in life. In thinking about what others have to offer us, we can further expand our horizons on what builds beloved community. Our Six Sources embraces all spiritualities, but doesn't define us by a religious set of beliefs, other than our 7 principles. We don't ask someone to believe in a certain view or dogma or any other set of thoughts and beliefs, only the adherence of those 7 principles, including a free search for truth and meaning, which is supported by affirming and supporting our 6 sources. There are congregations across this country who have Jewish congregants and have Jewish rituals on the holy days, led by those congregants. We have in our denomination Muslim congregants who have preached on what Ramadan means to them. We have congregants who have families or they themselves coming from India and have shared the tradition of Diwali, the Festival of Lights. Our congregations practice traditional Christmas and Easter services, celebrating the life and miracles of Jesus. We engage in social justice actions. Our principles don't exclude any faith or religion. We embrace all spiritual paths of our own and others. In order to embrace the multitude of life in the realm of faith, I have to invite someone to share their faith with me, an exchange of breaking bread together. As long as we practice our principles as the baseline, everyone is welcome. Christians, ecologists, humanists, pagans, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, native traditions, earth lovers, human rights advocates, Buddhists. We can offer to build the beloved community, not just inviting others into our fold. Let us learn from each other. Let us share with each other our own unique spiritual searches, as no two are alike within Unitarian Universalism. What do you not just want to hear more of, but what moves you? What engages your spirit? Your own spiritual searches? What rituals hold meaning to you from your past or present? As some of you know by now, I love baking and I love mindfulness, so I love engaging in this practice of mindful baking, which I do on some Fridays. I want this to be a place where our spirits feel fulfilled. Where do you feel spiritually nourished within our sources? Is there a ritual you want to share? I really do want to know, to include everyone's spiritual practice throughout the upcoming year. We seek to live a spiritual life, a life of interconnectedness, a life of engaging in social justice activities. And there's so much wisdom already here in this congregation. We are pagans, humanists, Buddhists, meditators, Christians, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, scientists, yoga lovers. We are multi-faith, multi-spirited, spiritual, some considering themselves spiritual but not religious, all seeking to be in covenant with each other in our liberal faith, a liberating faith, supporting a diverse community of people within our faith to care for each other amidst our diversity, so that we can care for the world amidst its diversity. We are Unitarians, and we promote always being on the side of love in our theology. We have a lot to offer the world, but only because we have been brought together by how much the world has to offer us, as we celebrate the diversity and awe of this world. And may it be so always, and amen. At this time, we have our offertory, and as I had mentioned in last Sunday, this is an opportunity to not only give to a cause that we support here in this congregation, 50% of it going to that cause, 50% here for our church's overall mission. And we'll be doing that this Sunday and next Sunday. Our Community Unitarian Universalist is a self-sustaining congregation, and the generosity of members and friends enables this congregation to fulfill its purpose in doing this sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion into our lives. You can make your donation online, if you're online this morning, or by texting 504-370-2659. Enter GIVE to be prompted to make your donation. For virtual donations, please note that there is a 3% processing fee. You can also mail a check to Community Church at 6690 Fleur de Lis Drive, New Orleans, 70124, and your support is appreciated. So this is an opportunity to either do your ongoing pledge or add to that. And thank you so much for your donations that support this ongoing work of our church and our social justice actions.
ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living. Words of the immortal Theodore Parker, Unitarian minister, UU minister. And in extinguishing the chalice, we extinguish its flame, not the truth of the light of truth, nor the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. One peace, my friends.
The closing hymn is 194, Famous Hearts, in 194.